Okay, hello everybody. This is Module 0, Lesson 2. This is a pre-recorded lesson for those of you that couldn't attend the AM or PM classes. This is basically the same thing that you would see if you're able to attend those AM or PM classes, but with a little bit of changes here and there. It's not obviously with the pre-recorded lessons, there's not as much participation in it, but I still try to make it basically the same. Um, if you didn't see the Module 0 Lesson 1 PowerPoint and lesson video before this, I would highly recommend you do that. I think that's located in your 825 folder. Um, but without further ado, let's get started. So first and foremost, this is the poem that we're going to be reading throughout Module 0. Is a poem from my librarian, Mrs. Long. The hard copy and the read aloud video are located in your 825 folder and your 91 folder, so you could easily find those in those locations. And I highly recommend listening to the read aloud video because it basically shows you how it's supposed to be read and like the inflection that they use and the tone. First, what we're going to do is I want all of you to brainstorm a word. Um, Basically, think of an adjective that describes your experience when it comes to reading, and try to be as positive as you can, because I know reading could be really tedious and hard, and a lot of you I know don't like reading. But try to be as positive. Like for an example, instead of saying hard, you can say challenging. Um, so I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. But some of my adjectives or words that I would use to describe reading is informative, exciting, and definitely challenging. There's a lot of text where even I struggle with sometimes. So I definitely get where a lot of you come from whenever you say reading could be a bit difficult sometimes. So next is the important questions for Module 0 and Lesson 2. So you may have seen this in Lesson 1. So the essential question is the first question. Is the overall overreaching question for the entire module. This question will not change throughout the entire module. Um, this is basically the overall question that we need to answer whenever we get through the lessons together. So the essential question for Module 0 is, how do we build knowledge through reading? That is basically going to be the question that we're going to want to answer whenever we get to the end of Module 0. The next one is the focusing question. This basically, this question won't change throughout Module 0 as well, unless until we get to Lesson 6. So this focusing question is, what does reading mean to the speaker in a poem from my librarian, Mrs. Long? This is a little bit more focused than the essential question. The essential question is very broad, while the focusing question sort of targets specific elements in the text. And the next one is the content framing question. So the content framing question is what's happening in the poem. The content framing question changes throughout the lessons. Lesson 1 was the focusing question was a little bit more different than the Lesson 2 one. Lesson 1 was more about questioning the text, guessing what the text was about, wondering and noticing what's happening in the text. This one is more about directly what's happening in the poem and summarizing what's happening. Because figuring out what's happening in the text is sort of the next step after noticing and wondering what's happening. Also, the phrase what's happening or what is happening is basically a way to understand what a text is about. It's basically the meat of the poem. What is specifically going on in the poem, like the plot. And summarizing the text and knowing what's happening in the poem is dependent on the type of text you're reading. So if you're reading a novel or a book, summarizing maybe about getting the main points of the plot or what's the major events that's happening. And for a poem like this one, it might be more about summarizing the main ideas that's happening in the poem and some of the patterns found in it. And specific patterns could be like an example is like the rhyming structure. If a poem is following a specific rhyming pattern, that would be something you would notice. Next is the vocabulary part. I did this in lesson 1. So the vocabulary, I know it can be a little bit difficult at times. Some words can be hard to understand what's happening in the context of it. But in the 9.1 folder and the 8.25 folder, I give you some PowerPoints and some slides about some specific vocabulary that I think y'all might have trouble with. And it gives you some background knowledge about the time that this poem is set in. So I would highly recommend you go into the 9.1 folder and look through that PowerPoint and just look through the words that you're having trouble with just to get a better understanding of what those words mean. And for the words that you're struggling with, I highly recommend that you put them in your digital notebook under your vocabulary journal. And the digital notebook is found in the important links folder in your course homepage. And if you have trouble accessing that digital notebook, please shoot me an email or go to the question board. We'll get you access to it. And this is just a chart of some words that I think you all may have trouble with while we're reading this, and the definition of the words, and if it's a noun or a verb. This is a little thing that you can review. And the Frayer model. So the Frayer model is a way to demonstrate the word and make it a little bit easier for y'all to understand. You don't have to do this in your journal, but I highly recommend it. So this is the Frayer model. So this is basically just a square with 4 squares inside of it. In the middle, you put the word. In the top left, you put the definition of the word. And in the bottom left, you put examples of the word. I like to do synonyms or words that have a very close meaning to the word. So embarrass, put down, degrade are all very similar to humiliate. And in the bottom right, that is a typo, I know. Is going to be non-examples or antonyms, words that are the opposite in meaning to the word. So compliment, congratulate, applaud. In the top right, I put some characteristics of the word as well. You can put that in your vocabulary journal. You don't have to. It's basically for your own learning and your own understanding. I just find it very easy to, if I'm struggling with the word, to do that, and I have a better understanding of it. Next is elements in the poem. So the specific elements in the poem, to basically understand what's happening in the poem, you have to identify and explain important elements that are found in the text that you're reading. So some important elements in this could be the poem speaker, the setting, and the mood that the poem speaker is setting, you know. Other examples could be, like I said earlier, there's specific patterns in the poem, like the rhyming, how many stanzas there are. Another could be the images created throughout the text. And it's really important to know all of the details about the speaker of the poem and the important events that are happening in the poem. It basically helps you summarize the poem a little bit better. So there is a Google Doc link here, and you can click on it. And I basically have just a speaker and events right here. So this is empty right now, but whenever you're looking through it, it may not be, because I'm going to be going through this with my AM and my PM classes tomorrow, and it may be full, it may not be. If it is full, just review the words and okay, yeah. If it is full, just review everything on that page. If it isn't full, you can type it in some of the stuff that you want. Let me see. So what I want everyone to do is read through the poem or play the video, the read aloud of the poem, and basically what we're going to be doing is annotating the poem. So, oh, sorry, my bad. The mic cut out right there. So, what I want us to do is annotate the poem. And what annotating means is it helps us track ideas and evidence in the text. It's basically you're writing down stuff while you're reading. And it basically provides a record for our thoughts and ideas. So, when we go back to specific parts of the text, all the information is right there and it's all summarized for you. So, again, read or listen to the poem. And anytime there is information about the speaker or some events that are happening in the poem, jot them down and click on that Google Doc link and put some in, or just review it. So I'll give you all a couple seconds to do that. Then you can come back to this video. Okay, so some things I wrote down was for the speaker, I wrote down that she was a troubled little girl, that she liked to listen to Nat King Cole and all the other artists. She likes to drink black coffee. She wanted to read Leaves of Grass. She would like to sit on the front porch and dream, and no lions or witches scared her, so she was fearless. And some things about the events in the poem I wrote down were she sat on the front porch watching the JFG sign and talking to neighbors. Late at night, she would listen to Nat King Cole, like I said earlier. She visited the bookstore and inhaled the wonderful odor of the books. She wanted Leaves of Grass. Mrs. Long would go to the big library uptown to get books for her. Mrs. Long always brought the books back. The speaker happily skipped back to her grandmother's house. She liked to sit on the front porch in a gray glider and dream of a world, and knowing that there would be spring. So it was very hopeful right there. So those are just some of the things I wrote down. I'll try to compare them to some of the things that you wrote down and see if you got some of them. So that's basically what annotating is. You basically go down through the text and just highlight important things that you find throughout the text. And then whenever you're done annotating, there's a thing a lot of people do. It's called synthesizing. So what synthesizing is, it's basically combining many things into just one thing. So looking through your annotations and all the things you wrote down about the speaker and the events, you can synthesize a lot of things. Like for the speaker, I wrote down that the speaker is a little girl who loves to read and imagine. That's basically combining 2 or 3 ideas into one right there. And then I wrote down the speaker goes to the library and takes out a book and goes home and reads it. This is basically combining all of your annotated ideas and helping you summarize the text a little bit better. So it's going back to that content framing question of what's happening in the poem. This basically helps you answer that question a little bit better. So next is the craft question of the lesson. So craft questions, there's usually one in every lesson. This one is, why is it important to write about what I read? So the craft question is basically guides the content framing question and helps the lesson move along. So again, the question is, why is it important to write about what I read? Like I said, we already answered this in the previous slide. It's important to write about what you read because it's important to jot down all your ideas and all the important events that are going on, because it helps you record and get all your ideas out, and helps you track ideas and evidence that are happening in the text. So whenever you go back to a specific part of the text, you know exactly what's happening, right? So that's basically called annotating again. And next is your exit ticket. So when an exit ticket is an assignment, and it's an opportunity to express yourself. So in an exit ticket, you don't worry about grammar or spelling or anything like that. Just get all your ideas out and answer the entire question. So there's a link to a Padlet right here. Click that. And you see it says answer the entire question. The question is, which word in the poem most helps you understand what's happening in a poem from my librarian, Mrs. Long, and why? So to get started, you just click this, write your name right here, and then write down your idea. Hopefully, whenever you look at this, it's filled from what went on during the AM and PM classes. You can participate. I look through these constantly, or you can just review what other people said. Is entirely up to you. The next is an assignment that is due. The assignment's going to be on your course homepage. All you have to do is click the document and finish the sentence frames. All the instructions are given to you, and there's also a video of how to do the assignment. Whenever you're done, just click submit. It should be a very easy assignment. It's basically what we went over today about summarizing, and the sentence frames makes it a lot easier for organizing your thoughts. So just get that done for me. You can get that done right after you're finished with this video, or at your own pace. Just do it before the due date, please. And whenever you're done, you can copy and paste that into your response journal for the future to help you out. It's entirely up to you if you want to do that or not. And then it's time to wrap up. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, email me or put them down into the question board. I always check my email in the question board, and I try to respond as soon as possible. But other than that, that should be it. We got through a lot today. We basically got through how to summarize the text and how to annotate. So again, all you have to do, complete that assignment for me. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. But if that is it, I will see you on the next lesson. Bye.